Hissene Habre is a brutal dictator who used to rule Chad in Africa, and we have some rare good news here about justice being served. He was convicted for his crimes. So BBC News explains here. He was convicted of crimes against humanity on Monday. The charges included rape, sexual slavery, and ordered killings of as many as 40,000 people. Habre, who led the country from 1982 to 1990, was sentenced to a life term in the first African Union trial against a former leader for human rights abuses. So, this is obviously a great thing. This is obviously something that we should all be celebrating. We should all be happy about. You finally have justice done for a former brutal, disgusting dictator. But what's the dirty little secret about this monster? Well, he was propped up and supported by the United States and the CIA. So, guys, I mean, this is so important because on this story alone, you can pop that bubble of ignorance where many people still to this day believe, oh, I don't know what you mean. The United States keeps order around the world. We're the world policemen. What we do is we protect freedom and democracy. And our foreign policy is based on altruism and humanitarianism. And that's what we do. We're so great. We're so special. We're the only superpower in the world's history that actually genuinely was selfless and cared about everybody else. And it's not about power and money and control. It's about the fact that we love everybody. You can believe that, or you can stop being an idiot. And you can actually go based off the evidence and the data and go based off what we actually know has happened throughout U.S. history, specifically more post-World War II, though we did stuff before then as well. But no, it was not about humanitarianism and altruism. Oftentimes, what we did is we would overthrow democratically elected governments, put in fascist dictators who were puppets to U.S. corporations, and then as we did that, we would hilariously turn around to the rest of the world and go, see, we're protecting freedom and democracy. You have a weird way of protecting it by overthrowing a free democratic regime and putting in a fascist leader, an authoritarian government. But see, this stuff is like Orwell 101. As you're doing perpetual war, say it's perpetual peace. As you're overthrowing democracy, say you care most about democracy. As you say you're most anti-fascism, prop up fascist leaders who will do the bidding of you and your corporations. And there are countless examples of this, man. I mean, just to give one random example here. When we propped up the Shah in Iran, we overthrew the democratically elected, and this was the CIA specifically, overthrew the democratically elected leader in Iran, Mohammad Mossadegh, and put in place the Shah. Because the Shah allowed U.S. oil companies and British oil companies to get the oil at a super-duper-duper cheap rate. So after a while, you sowed the seeds of anger in the country, and this led directly to, in 1979, the Islamic Revolution. We all look at the government now in Iran and we go, damn, they're a theocracy, they're disgusting, women have no rights, all these different problems. Well, I mean, one of the reasons why there was a revolution is because we had put into place an authoritarian leader. And guess what? One of the places where people could actually meet freely without being spied on by the government was in mosques. So lo and behold, you had the gatherings in the mosques, you had this rising increase in religiosity because people viewed this religiosity as some sort of a way to break free from what they viewed as this massively tyrannical regime. And that's just one example. You go way back, way before World War II, the Banana Wars. We overthrew South American governments literally so we could just jack their bananas. I mean, that's unbelievable. So it's amazing how the government has this ability. They just spin any situation around the world to say, we're the good guys, the people who are against us are the bad guys. Well, let me ask you a question. How do you make that argument, for example, in Saudi Arabia? They tried when we had the death of the last Saudi king. There were press releases from the White House. Oh, he was a great reformer in the Middle East. A great reformer? In Saudi Arabia, women aren't allowed to drive. In Saudi Arabia, you can be put to death for being gay. They kill people for sorcery and witchcraft. They say all atheists are terrorists. They've banned even liberal interpretations of Islam. How can you say, oh, they're great reformers? This was a thriving society in the Middle East. Well, they're only saying that because it ain't got nothing to do with their human rights record, which is abysmal and pathetic, and they have the same ideology as ISIS. It's got to do with the fact that they're our business partner, so we get oil from them. So they get to do whatever the fuck they want, and since they're on Team US, we pretend like they're good guys even when they're obviously bad guys. So it was the same thing with this guy. You don't think, like at the time, you don't think they would argue, oh yes, Hissene Habre is a very good democratic leader, and he cares about his people, and it's great that he is leading in Chad. No, of course they made those arguments. It's only after the fact we found out, oh shit, he did sexual slavery, he had rape rooms, and he killed as many as 40,000 people. Don't ever believe the propaganda. Always dig for information and data and know what's happening, and understand that we pay taxes to this government that supports all these tyrannical governments around the world. This is why we need to vote for people who are non-interventionists. This is why we need to try to get money out of politics so the military-industrial complex doesn't have as much sway over the government. All these things are so important.